Hi. Thanks to TikTok for being willing to speak the truth. I'm a person first, label liberation. Labelliberation.com. Put all alphabets in the palm of our hand, and if we blow all the letters away, what have we got? Not nothing, not an empty palm. We have label liberation. I met Princess Diana a number of years ago and shared with her a revelation I had that allowed me to see how to stop all hate. The interesting thing is, all hate triggers wars, prejudice, generation gaps, violence, alienation, depression, suicide, sexual assault, murder, and all other crimes. So when I figured out as a child that I was going to travel the world and understand if we can inoculate against measles, why not against hurting, hating, scapegoating, and segregating? And my parents, who were the rejected siblings, did everything in their power to block out my question, why do we hurt, hate, scapegoat, and segregate? And they beat me for asking why, saying it's brainless to ask why, because human beings just kill and hate, make wars. And they were annoyed that they each had a sibling that was favored. So they took their hatred out on me, hid it from people they worked with and their families. So on my quest, when I entered a foster home at 20, I realized after 8 years of world travel, when I got to UCLA, I was still illiterate, never having passed grade 1. But what I did was I went to see the head of theater arts, and he was fascinated that I had spent 8 years interviewing people saying, how do we get to the core of human conflict, and what's the most hurtful thing that ever happened to you? And so what happened then is he said, I said, I want to create a theater event and write a book, even though I was still illiterate, where audiences could understand everything psychologically, whether we're educated, uneducated, literate, illiterate, so that we don't have to feel stupid the way I was labeled retarded, and that we can understand the most important thing about psychology, that when we project onto others, whether putting them up or putting them down, why do we have to wait to go to a therapist? Why can't kids in kindergarten start learning about the phenomena of when you glorify or vilify, when you put up or down anyone, it's because of one's own inner unresolved emotions. So as soon as we understand that, if someone labels you and puts you down or glorifies you, as some parents will glorify one child and put down another, well, you know what happens to dogs when they're put down. Look what happens to us when we're demeaned. And then Colin Young, the head of theater arts, said, congratulations, Justin. I said, what are you congratulating me? I haven't done anything yet. He said, congratulations, because you're now a freshman, and I believe you're going to. So there I was, a freshman at UCLA, never having passed grade 1 public school, unable to read, write, or count. So I went to the counseling center. The head of the counseling center said, you don't look 28. You don't even look 16. We're going to enroll you at a special course here at UCLA for children with learning disorders. So to get me to read, and all the other kids to read, they knew my age, these 11 to 16-year-old kids, they had us talk about flashbacks, and they typed something up. And the teacher handed me what she typed up that I had said. My mother used to say, if you read, something will happen to your brain and you'll die. And she asked me to read it. Well, I never looked at words because I guess I was afraid. If I look at words, something will happen to my brain and I'll die. So the teacher said, Justin, please look at the words, because I was just going to look away and repeat what I remembered saying to her. And she said, if you look at the words, that will be helpful. So I looked and I said, my mother used to say, if you read something will happen to your brain, you'll die. Well, I was 28. That was the first time I consciously, carefully, fearfully looked at words. I didn't die. My mother told a lie. I wasn't retarded. Hey, just a minute, I was retarded I was illiterate a few seconds ago. So that meant I wasn't really retarded. It had been projected onto me by my mother, who was called the devil and the jinx by her mother because she wasn't a boy. And my father was called the dumb nothing compared to his brother, who was called the brilliant one who's going to be a millionaire. My mother's sister was called the beautiful one and clever one, and another sister, the angel, the diamond. Everybody got labeled. Hey, we're prisoners of the alphabet. I realized we're literally prisoners of the alphabet, every baby born. And in just a minute, I was illiterate a few seconds ago, so was every baby born illiterate. And we come out of the womb naked, no mask, no lies. Every baby knows how to love and be loved. And then what happens is, while illiterate, why not call us every baby a genius? Because the illiterate baby is free from any alphabets. We don't know it. We don't know how to label. We don't know how to be labeled because we have a higher, a more awake, a more conscious way of improvising and feeling love for everyone. We all know how to love and be loved when we're babies. Baby Hitler knew how to love and be loved. And politicians today who lie and say, I won when someone else won, or let's go to war, because they want to win more. Well, that's the card game trance they're all in. If life's like a card game, I realized that winners need losers for reflection. And so there's two realities. There's the virtual reality of the card game trance. We all think that's the only reality, but I realized as I put all alphabets in the palm of my hand and blew all the letters away to label liberation, that in reality, the real reality, we are simultaneously, fully, our original identity, everyone's, is atoms in space, dancing backwards through the alphabet in a cosmic embrace. And we know how to love and be loved, and everything is wonderful because every baby born won the ultimate win of all time, the being born lottery. But when we're hypnotized into a card game trance where winners manufacture losers for reflection, we're in this insanity of holding our cards close to our vest, and I'm going to win by you having to lose. And it's behind all wars, prejudice, generation gaps, violence, alienation, depression, suicide, murder, and all other crime, until we can chew gum and walk at the same time and say, hey, this whole virtual reality of winning, losing, does not have to solely be our reality. What we can do is reclaim our illiterate genius when we were atoms in space, dancing backwards through the alphabet in a cosmic embrace. And there was no us versus them. There was amen. There was a freedom to be real and have nothing to conceal. So may I invite you to realize that what they did to me was really hurtful. The head of theater arts and Dr. Carl Faber said, your research can walk back World War III. And what you've just recognized in your epiphany, in your moment of sudden realization, what you just automatically did because you were closer to being illiterate, being 28 and never having learned to read and count, your insights were beyond Sigmund Freud, who pointed to the unconscious. But you are allowing our faculty and our students and their parents to make the unconscious conscious. And so I presented there at UCLA in California, and then Toronto, London, Paris, Rome, and Dr. Paul Simonoff was there at UCLA from California, from Russia. He was studying the hippies. And he said to me, I'm going to teach you Russia's top secret, because he said, you're the most real person I've ever met in America. And I said, I was afraid of a compliment because my parents were so jealous being in the card game trance of everyone. So I said, I'm a Canadian. At the time, I wasn't both American and Canadian. And he said, I'm going to show you Russia's top secret. And he wrote down fear, an arrow to anger and information. Fear causes anger. Information cancels out the fear, cancels out the anger. And I said, fear causes anger. Fear causes labels. Labels can kill. Information can kill the fear, anger, and labels. And he said, Dr. Simonoff said, and poured us some vodka. And then I presented at the St. Lawrence Center in Toronto, then, as I mentioned, London, Paris, and Rome. Federico Fellini, the filmmaker, said he wants to do a film because when I show everyone's Joker in the card game reality, where we experience both losing and winning, it didn't matter the order, we can escape all card game trances and escape our mind-made paralyzing borders. So Dr. Salant, Oman Salant, was in charge of America, Canada, and British defense. He was a world authority. He was a scientist and a medical doctor and a world authority in all military, atomic warfare, chemical warfare. And he happened to be at UCLA and heard me being asked to speak. And he approached me and said, Justin, I've arranged for the 3 countries that I'm working for to pick you and sponsor you to travel the world. And I've spoken, he said, to Lucy Jarvis, and she took an hour special of your video, of your filming, of your journey to label liberation. And John Lennon, she showed it to John Lennon. He wants to write a song of world peace with you. And someone at the National Film Board of Canada agreed, who was interested in my research, agreed to film in every country of the world. And then the man at the film board said, I want you to leave your girlfriend, become my lover, work with me at the film board, and with what you've learned, the two of us will be very powerful together. And he said he likes the dark forces of the winning hand, and he doesn't want anyone else to win but him and me. And I said, I'm sorry. Label liberation really belongs to humanity so that we can become really human. And what he did is sexually assaulted me, threatened to kill me. And what happened then is as I escaped, he sent me a death threat in writing that reminded me of my mother, who used to say, if you ever tell any of our family secrets, I'm going to have you murdered. And that played with my head. And I went into a coma. Now, everyone's in a coma to the degree we don't remember our illiterate genius, full capacity to love and be loved. So it took me 50 years to unravel my PTSD, amnesia, which everyone has too. And I'm ready now to share it with you. There were a few people in positions of power holding winning hands who each time I started to heal did whatever they could to make sure that this breakthrough of everyone being atoms in space, dancing backwards through the alphabet in a cosmic embrace, alphabet free and fully capable of loving and being loved all of humanity. So there's one thing I remembered when I went into a foster home at 20, and that was trying to heal. Dr. Tukti said to me, when I said I'm unable to read or count due to the projections from my parents that needed me to be the family toilet so that they could feel superior to someone because they couldn't win while my mother's sister was favored, my father's brother was favored. So what happened is I realized that one man had said to me, when I traveled for 8 years with my foster father, and I asked this one man, everybody that I met, how do we get to the core of human conflict? What's the most hurtful thing that ever happened to you? And one man said, when love and hate are absent, the way is clear and undisguised, but make one distinction, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you mean. When love and hate are absent, the way is clear and undisguised, but make one distinction, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. And he said, all of us need to get to a point where if you love someone and then you hate someone else, that's not really love. We have to move to a place where we can love everyone. And he said, we have to get beyond all polarities, all the programmed mind. And I thought, afterwards, that's the card game trance he was talking about, where winners manufacture losers. The superior need the inferior. The lucky need the unlucky. And someone like Hitler, a baby who knows how to love and be loved like everyone else, was so hurt by the rejection. He needed to do what he needed to do to free himself and set himself back to the reality of what that man had said to me, to be clear that we can love and love everyone. Because when the reality sets in that when love and hate are absent, when all polarities are absent, the way is clear and undisguised. But soon as we're imprisoned in a card game trance, we're literally in groupthink pecking orders, forbidden to ever get outside any of the alphabet borders, when in reality, we're born completely free, dances of energy, atoms in space, dancing backwards through the alphabet in a cosmic embrace, all we have to do is chew gum and walk at the same time. Realize our atoms in space reality. And at the same time, look at our virtual reality that's really unreality, where we have wars, prejudice, generation gaps, violence, alienation, depression, suicide, sexual assault, murder, and all other crime, until we recognize our here and now timeless time. So, thank you, TikTok, for allowing me to rhyme. And I'm a person first, label liberation. So, labelliberation.com. Peace belongs to everyone. And I thank you to China for having a wise man say, when love and hate are absent, the way is clear and undisguised, but make one distinction, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. Let us all take that beautiful Chinese wisdom to heart.